Welcome back to the off-season, our very last episode for season 2022. Me and Matty, we're going to hit the frog and toad after this one, and then we'll be back in 2023, our very first episode. We'll be going through the top 4 clubs from 2022 and bringing back one legend from each of those clubs. But today, really exciting one. 4 cracking teams here with a very rich history in our game. The Canberra Raiders, the South Sydney Rabbitohs, the Sydney Roosters, and the Melbourne Storm. So if you haven't tuned in to one of these yet, it's where me and Matty go through with those 4 teams, pick one legend from the club's history to bring back for season 2023. So sometimes it might just be the best player in the club's history. In other situations, there's a few today, we might pick, a great player to come back and fill a spot in that team for season 2023. So based on their squad for next season, Raiders, South Sydney, Sydney Roosters, and the Melbourne Storm. This one is going to be an absolute cracker. I welcome in my 5'8" for the very last time this year. Waterboy, doing?
What's going on? It's been a great year, but I'm glad we got to do this during the off season because it's fucking boring, and I reckon most of the comments are like in these videos are like, oh fuck, I'm so glad these are around because there's literally nothing else doing in rugby league. So if you're listening and you enjoy listening to this, we equally as much like talking about it because it's just something to talk about. So I'm just glad we can share it with everyone.
And I know, mate, like a big reason why I started Gurus because I wanted to create the platform that I wanted that didn't exist in my opinion. And especially during the off season when there is nothing fucking doing, this is exactly what I would have loved 5 years ago.
Oh, 100%. I'm still going to be doing this in 5 years.
I have no doubt whatsoever it will be. No doubt whatsoever. Thank you for you guys that have supported it during the off-season. It's been fantastic. If you are watching now, slap that like button for us. Do us a favour. Tell one of your Dribbly Rugby League mates that these episodes are out there. The beauty of this stuff, Matty, is you can watch this whenever, essentially, and it's still going to be applicable.
Yeah, I think the best 17s are pretty popular, but obviously it's not really evergreen. Like, as soon as round 1 comes, they're pretty irrelevant. But these will be around forever, and we'll continue to do these as long as we can. So there's an endless amount of topics we can talk about, so please keep sending them in.
Yeah, keep sending in your topics, guys. When we come back in 2023, we will be looking for some new ones as the season starts to come around. But, Matty, let's get into these 4 sides. I know one of them you're very, very excited to get stuck into. You love your Roosters. But we'll kick off with the Canberra Raiders today. Raiders heading into 2023, I really like their side. I'm happy with their starting 13. There's obviously positions that you could upgrade here and there. They've got a long list of legends, mostly coming from the 1990s. An immortal chucked in there, some of the best halves ever, some of the best forwards ever. A stack of options here, mate. Who have you gone for to bring back for the milk in 2023?
Yeah, it's just endless how many, like especially in the 90s, this Raiders team. I originally was thinking a bit more recently, and the names I had written down were like when I was growing up in high school, kind of just out of high school. So I originally had Todd Carney. Like, I fucking love Todd Carney.
Prime TC.
Everyone loves Todd Carney. I also had Anthony Milford, playing for Canberra at fullback.
Yeah.
But fuck me, it's so hard to go past someone like just anyone in that 90s team. So just because Jackie Whiten's 6, I'll probably just go Ricky Stewart. Ricky Stewart at 7, but fuck me, I could have picked him, could have picked Loz, could have picked Mao, could have picked Clyde. It's just endless that night. I really wish I got to watch that team week in, week out.
So do I, mate. We were obviously pretty young for that side, but I still think they are one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest of all time. And I would actually argue that team probably underachieved a little bit in the 90s. I think that they were that fucking good.
Yeah.
Obviously, they let 91 slip. 93 had the Ricky Stewart injury. So, a couple of premierships could have really. I don't know. I mean, I think you could argue it is a dynasty anyway. But
it's definitely a dynasty. Like, it's their golden era. Yeah.
But if you chuck in those couple of premierships and they go 89, 90, 91, 93, 94, you win 4 comps in 5 or 6 years.
They're one of the best teams of all time.
Yeah, without a doubt. So pretty impressive. And, there would be the argument that obviously they're not the Dragons side that won 11 in a row. I believe that was before it was...
was there rugby league that long ago.
Well, unlimited tackles, Matty. So we're talking a different sport here, but I know one listener will fucking love that. I only just caught on to what you were saying. I like that. You went with Ricky Stewart. I considered Sticky. We've spoken about him a lot on this podcast, especially in the off season. Love Sticky. I think he's one of the greats of all time. I just look at Jamal Fogarty and the impact he had when he came into that side.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, Ricky Stewart, obviously a much better player and an all-timer, but I just think that they can get by with the halves they've got.
Yeah.
You mentioned Jack Whiten.
Yeah.
He was the reason why I didn't go for a Laurie Daly.
Yeah.
I think their halves, they can get by with those two and be successful. You obviously could have played Laurie Daly out in the centres if you wanted to. It is one spot for Canberra. I look at them and I think their centres are quite young, quite raw. But if you're going to pick a centre from Canberra, you ain't going for Laurie Daly at the end of the day.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, you're going for the big Mal Meninga. Mate, I think Mal's a guy that we probably haven't spoken as much about Mal on this show as, considering he's a legend and obviously an immortal of our game. But Mal Meninga, when you look back at his career, he toured with the Kangaroos 4 times. So you think about a Kangaroo tour only happens every 4 years. You do the math there. That's like 16 years of being at the top of your game, to being in the Kangaroos side. So Mal Meninga.
And not just, playing at a good level, to do what he did, where he was just the most powerful motherfucker on the field, out wide, fast, strong, everything. It's crazy he was at the top of his game for so long.
Yep, and you have a look, 1990, obviously we've spoken about that try a lot during that series. He scores the match winner there, has an incredible game. Tours with the Kangaroos in 94 as well, I believe, and it was that game that he scored the last try in the grand final, taking the intercept there. So Mal just...
Was that when he had the thing on his...
Yeah.
The cast?
Yes. Yeah.
That's cool.
Absolute weapon. So Mal Meninga, he was one that I seriously considered, and I might have just convinced myself to take him.
Oh, you didn't go Mal? I thought you were going.
I'm tossing up Mal and one other guy, and the other guy is a name that you mentioned, which I'm sure you'll all see. I just think with Adam Elliott leaving, I think there is a spot open in the 13 jersey for the Canberra Raiders. I've obviously tipped Trey Mooney to take that spot. He is very young. He is really raw. I think it is the one spot where there is a bit of a hole. Mal Meninga in the centres is a great option. I'd be happy to take that one. The other one I'm tossing up is, of course, the great Bradley Clyde.
Yeah. I think you're right. For the sake of this game, I think Clyde is probably the best choice, because you're right. They can get by with the halves that they have. Even the guys I said before, like Milford, they have Savage coming through, he's a young gun. Obviously, that logic goes for Trey Mooney as well. But yeah, from what we know now, we haven't seen, if you just watch NRL, you haven't seen much of Trey Mooney.
Yep.
So yeah, for that reason, Bradley Clyde is probably, for the sake of this game, is probably the winner.
Yeah, so Bradley Clyde at 13. I've said quite often, I think Cam Murray is probably the closest thing we've ever seen to Bradley Clyde, but I think Clyde is still one of the most underrated forwards of all time. And I think Bradley Clyde, Matty, is a classic example of when a guy doesn't go into media, commentating, coaching, they sort of slip into the background a little bit and we forget just how fucking good a guy like Bradley Clyde was. I genuinely think that him and Brett Kenny, who didn't go into the media, they're not they're not in front of your face all the time. So I think they sort of get forgotten just how good they were.
It's funny, you say, if you know how we say, there are some kids who have never seen Freddie play? You know how, we say that now and they only know him on TV? I really didn't get to appreciate Bradley Clyde until I went and worked for the Blues, and, fucking everyone appreciates that bloke in those walls. And that was the first time I really got exposed to how good he was. Obviously I'd heard about him and, what he could do. But I never saw him play, really. So you're right. If you don't go into the media or you don't stay relevant, there's a whole generation now more of people who never got to see you play. And I guess the older listeners, that's we joked about it before, but there's 100 years of rugby league that I've never watched.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think that, I know the athletes are obviously getting better, but you can't really, it's hard to compare eras, right? So it's crazy to think how much we've actually missed. I'd love to get a time machine and go watch a game, go watch the Dragons play in the 60s, or go watch South play in that golden era of I think it was around the Great Depression, the 30s, whatever. It's crazy. I don't know how I've gotten into this rabbit hole, but
you've gone deep. I'm just letting you run.
Yeah, it's crazy to think what we've actually missed. Because, to me, when I say, the best player ever, it's like the best players that I've actually seen. So, but back to the original point, I never really got to see Bradley Clyde play, but every single person in those New South Wales Walls who played with him or whatever just couldn't speak highly enough of him.
I wish I had a time machine. This is what you come here for. The very, very best from Matty. Mate. Bradley Clyde, Mal Meninga, I would take either of those two. I think obviously the young centres at the Canberra Raiders have shown that they can do a job. Bradley Clyde, I just think chucking him into that pack. And if you put him in there with Hudson, with Tapanay, I think straight away it becomes possibly the best pack in the comp.
Yeah.
Right up there.
That'd be so grouse.
The other two that I would chuck in there in the conversation, mate, you obviously mentioned you got Xavier Savage, and I'm happy to back him in. Gary Belcher's a guy that was a fantastic footballer back then. I would love to bring Belcher back. The other one, Steve Walters. Obviously, hooker is a bit of a problem down there. Not a problem, but they just don't have a standout guy. You've got Wolford, you've got Starling, reportedly Danny Levi's down there. So a couple of options, but to bring back Steve Walters, I just think that'd be fucking tremendous. But Clyde and Mal, they'd be the two I'd decide between. And at the moment, I'm leaning towards the great Bradley Clyde. Now, South Sydney, your side, pretty rich history. Dating all the way back to 2002, so plenty of guys to choose from.
I'm not even going to entertain that comment.
Plenty of guys to choose from there, Matty. And I have a look at your side heading into next season. No real holes anywhere. There's a couple of spots that could be strengthened, but no massive holes. If I was to pinpoint one hole, I'd probably say left centre. I think Isaiah Tass finished there last year, did really well. I wouldn't say it's a problem, but it probably is a spot that I would consider lifting, and I think that might be the spot you'll go for. Yeah,
look, my first thoughts were obviously the main two guys who left, like Sammy and Greg. For a moment, obviously, there's a wing spot there as well, which is under contention, and man, it'd be good to have AJ on one side and Nathan Merritt on the other. That'd be fucking sick. But I can't go past GI. Like, I think, obviously, Sam's my favourite player ever, but for what South need, like obviously Trell at the moment, he's our fullback, so he can play. He's definitely our fullback, and then I'll have Greg at centre. I'm not saying one's better than the other at something. I'm just saying for the team dynamic, Trell's our fullback. He just re-signed. So stoked about that. So he'll be a one, and then I put Greg at left centre, and fuck me, he'll win centre of the year every year he's there.
Yeah, he definitely will. Imagine if you had Greg at his prime on that edge now with the way that you utilised that edge to go Cody Walker, Latrell, GI, AJ.
Oh, my God.
That's just a dream.
You
know, a guy like Latrell at fullback who's already won 2 comps. He's already done everything in rugby league, and he's still in the very start of his career, like as a whole, realistically. To GI, potentially, I think the most damaging outside back we've ever seen to... I think he will be the most prolific try scorer rugby league has ever seen, full stop. Would be fucking unbelievable.
Oh, I mean, probably wouldn't be able to afford it, but...
Imagine being a right centre, just going...
You stay at home.
No thanks.
Yeah.
Now, I probably would have gone with GI as well, mate, but seeing as you picked him, which didn't shock me in the slightest, I am going to go with Sam Burgess.
Cool.
I wouldn't bring him back in the 13 jersey. You've obviously got Cam Murray there who does a tremendous job. I'd bring him back in the front row. Are you desperate for front rowers? No. But I just think Sam could... I feel like at that front row pack, those 4 or 5 guys, your Sellos, Totolas, your Burgess, there isn't like a standout alpha there. They're all solid players. You don't really need an alpha out of those guys, to be fair, but I just feel like bringing Sam back... He could just bring a little bit something extra to that forward pack, just a little bit more leg speed, the offload, the aggression, and he's just a true leader, isn't he?
Oh, I think Souths are going to truly benefit because he's one of the assistants this year. I reckon like some of those young players there are going to truly benefit him being there, and that's off the field. If he was back on the field, he just like he fucking ran himself into retirement. That's how mentally he was. And it was just for the good of the team, for the good of his teammates. You know, self-preservation was out the window with Sammy. He was just follow me. And fuck, I miss him so much.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people would be sitting at home probably going, Adam Reynolds straight away, or, Tugger Coleman, or one of these, Craig Wing, these sort of guys at halfback. Mate, I think Ilias is developing at a really good rate. And I think alongside Cody Walker, you guys can be successful there with Ilias at halfback.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm so mentally fatigued about all this.
Yeah.
Bring back, I
was scared to bring it up.
Yeah, it's just, we don't need to go to that discussion again. It's not good for anyone. No one was more critical of it than me. Of course, I'd love Reynolds to be there. I love it. Ilias is there. I don't think anyone wants to talk about it anymore. Reynolds is a Bronco. I'm fucking annoying myself talking about it. Reynolds is a Bronco. When Cody signed the other day, I think it was yesterday. Time of recording, it was yesterday. The first, I saw all these comments of what happened to South's, older player policy, and I'm just fucking give it a rest. Seriously, I'm just over talking about it. Reynolds, fucking legend of the club, always will be. Hope he's back one day, off the field as a coach or something. But yeah, sick of that conversation.
It's been a big day for you, buddy.
Yeah, I know. It's a long,
We're getting in the fields. We've still got the Roosters to come, which I'm really looking forward to. That'll be great. Mate, the other one I want to mention, you brought GI at centre, and I would still bring back GI over this guy every day of the week, don't get me wrong. But, mate, one guy that played for you guys, and he probably didn't play his best footy with you guys. He was still good, but he wasn't at the peak of his career. Nigel Vungana.
Oh, yeah.
I would have loved to have. It was when he was playing for you guys that he had the big, is it a goatee? Is that what
it was?
A
plaited goatee.
Plaited goatee, yeah. He was a weapon. And look, obviously his best footy, I think it was 02-03 with the Canterbury Bulldogs. He was on fucking fire.
Yeah, he fucking scored 5 against South one day.
Yeah. He was a good footballer, Nigel.
Yeah.
And he'd play centre, he'd kill it, then you'd show up for the Australia versus Kiwis game and he'd be playing 5'8", fullback, he'd be running the whole show.
Yeah, he came to South in that Russell Crowe takeover era, which is just, I actually watched 2 Russell Crowe movies this week, and it made me want to. I watched Gladiator, and I actually had never watched Gladiator before.
Really?
I've never watched it until last weekend. It was funny because I said that to Eddie from Hello Sport once, and he literally berated me, and I was like, "Fuck, I gotta watch it."
Rightly so, yeah.
Yeah, I reckon because Denon always says it's his favorite movie. I reckon if Denon found out I never watched Gladiator, he'd probably fucking pun me. but luckily I've watched it now, so I've passed the fucking quota. But yeah, I was watching those, and I was thought, fuck, I'd love to watch that Southside Story again. That little documentary that the ABC did?
It's online or it's somewhere. I watched it not long ago.
Is it? Because I couldn't find it anywhere. I could find it, but I had to pay $7. I wanted to find it for free.
Remember, they did that. Was it a suit ad or something at the time? That was.
It was Armani.
That's it.
Yeah. Fuck, I'm gonna watch that this weekend.
I'm sure it's somewhere. I'm sure I saw it somewhere the other day. It's got to be on YouTube or something. Surely.
Nah, it's not on YouTube. I think I had to go to. I don't know. I'll try find it, but yeah, that'd be cool to watch again.
A time machine to come in handy again. Let's move to the Sydney Roosters, mate. Looking very strong coming into next year. Not a heap of holes in this side, and the Chooks have had some of the greatest players of all time, Takiaho's leaving, so you could bring Artie Beetson back, for example. He'd be a great option. You could bring Brad Fittler back to play 6, 13, centre, fucking anywhere. Freddie could come back anywhere. I've gone a little bit outside the box, and I'm not sure how much of a popular pick this will be, but my biggest issue with the Chooks right now is that they don't have a strike left centre. And I have a look through their history, and I genuinely think that probably their best left centre I have seen anyway was Latrell Mitchell. Last time they won 2 comps, he was playing left centre. He came up with huge plays in both of those grand finals, huge plays throughout those seasons. And I think that with the football that Latrell is playing now at fullback, I think if you were to put him back to full-time centre in a side like that, I think he would be even more destructive than what he was back then. So, mate, I'm going to take your boy. I'm going to take Latrell Mitchell, and I'm going to stick him at left centre inside Daniel Tupu with Joey Manu on the other side and Suoliti on the other side. And I then would be confident in saying the Roosters win the comp.
Let me just read you a quote that Latrell said yesterday. I've always had South Sydney running through my veins. I want to be here for the rest of my career. I feel at home here, and that's what matters to me. Get your paws off Latrell. He's
Sounds like a contract year to me.
you rattled me a bit because I didn't expect you to take Latrell back, but that's a very good point. He probably still is. He probably would be. You know what? If he went to the Roosters and played in the centres, they'd have the best 2 centres in the comp.
100%.
So,
who would be the best centre in the comp?
I still have Latrell.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah, he's just got that little bit extra. But it's weird. They're similar-ish centres, but if they both played fullback, they're totally different.
I reckon that a lot of people would agree that Latrell's the better centre, but I reckon a lot of people would also try and tell you that Manu's the better fullback.
It's one of those things though. Like
they're so different.
Like yes, Manu's going to clock up 300 meters. They're just not the same. Like Latrell's not going to. That's not. If Latrell clocked up 300 meters, it'd be counterproductive because you couldn't get the explosive Latrell, as you know. But like everyone likes to bring up, that Latrell doesn't get the same running meters as Teddy, which is crazy.
You're going to need a nap after today.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm angry.
Taking it out of you.
I'm angry for some reason. It's good though. I think it's a good pick having Latrell there.
I think as you were just saying then that Latrell and Manu, they're such different sort of footballers. If you could take Latrell's skill set, put it in with Manu's workload coming out of his own end and everything, fuck, you'd have a fullback there.
You'd have a
James Tedesco, you know?
You would, but it'd be as I said, it'd be a bit of a prototype because I just don't think it's possible to be that fucking powerful and like explosive, but to be like, to clock up all the shit that Manu does as well.
Yeah, I agree.
Fuck, they're just such good players. Manu's probably my Teddy is. Manu is like in my top 2 favourite Roosters players at the moment. Like, I'm such a huge fan of Joey Manu. I know everyone is, but, I'm not a Roosters fan, so yeah, I love Joey Manu.
He's hard not to love.
Yeah.
Who are you bringing back?
Look, I have to bring back Brad Fittler.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know where I'll play him because you said before you could throw him anywhere. Obviously, he wore the 6 for the Roosters mostly. Their halves are fine. Obviously, the halves could win the comp, to be honest. You could throw him at centre. I don't know where I'm going to put Freddie, but there's probably a little bias in this as well. Like, I worked with Freddie a lot at New South Wales Blues. I really like him as a person. So, it's hard for me to go past Freddie. He's one of the Roosters' all-time greats. You could just throw him anywhere. I don't know where I'd put him. He'd probably walk in and be their captain, which is fuck. They've had a couple of good leaders there. The Roosters, like they just had Boyd Corner was one that I thought of as well.
Yeah,
I didn't know if I should go Cordner or Sonny.
Obviously 2 good options.
Because obviously Sonny's like, you take Sonny as a player, but like what Cordner did for the Roosters, fuck, you'd almost take him as well. So yeah, I'd take Freddie. I don't know where I'd put him, but he'd just be in my team somewhere.
Yeah, well, I mean, you could quite easily just play him where I was going to play Latrell, left centre.
Yeah, right.
He would dominate there. I'm also pick Latrell just to fit that specific position.
I think you've taken his like followed the rules of the game a bit better this podcast. I think with Brad Clyde and Latrell, but yeah, he's just someone I want to bring back.
I'll tell you what, you must have been shocked when I didn't pick Brad Fittler. It must be the first time ever. I was
actually going to give him to you. That's why I was thinking of the back rowers. So
I appreciate that, mate. Thank you.
Yeah, but I'm glad I got to pick Freddie.
Very kind of you. But the Roosters, as you can tell by the conversation we just had there, that's just how stacked they are at the moment. Yeah. It is just a strong side that you can bring back legends from.
Yeah.
One of the best clubs that has been around for 100-odd years and has had so many great players come in and out. Latrell Mitchell for me.
You could also bring back Minicello, put him on that right wing.
Mini, yeah, would be a great shout. There's so many guys that you could bring back. I still think if you brought back Artie Beetson in the front row,
yeah,
I'd get that 100%. A Luke Rigertson, a Craig Fitzgibbon, so many fucking talented guys you can bring back into this team. A tremendous side. The Melbourne Storm, mate. Now, me and Matty have been playing sort of brain checkers over here, trying to work out who's going to take who. I'm going to allow you to go first.
Okay.
And I've gone a little bit outside the box, but I'm worried that you might also go a little bit outside of the box. And if you do, I'll be filthy, but there are plenty of other options here. Now, keep in mind with the Melbourne Storm, they've obviously had the big 3 who are fucking tremendous and are all better than their current spine, but I think their current spine can win a comp as they are if you put other guys around them. So There's a few angles to talk about the Melbourne Storm from, Matty. Hit me with yours.
Like, obviously Cam Smith is the one you first think of because he's arguably the best player of all time. But you're right, they got Harry Grant. You got Billy Slater, but they got Ryan Papenhuyzen, et cetera, et cetera. So for the second time this podcast, I'm just going to go Greg Inglis. I'm bringing back GI. I'll bring him back from South and I'll bring him back for the Storm. I'll play him in the same position. I'll play him at centre because that's probably, I mean, we spoke about earlier in the day, not on this podcast, a different podcast, about how the Storm are kind of rebuilding around their spine. There's a lot of conjecture around mainly the edge players on the bench starting. So I could have brought back one of those guns, but same as kind of the centres. Like, we know that Olam's going to play centre. Remus Smith will probably be the other centre. And then you got Xavier Coates on one wing. And then you got either Meany or Jennings on the other. But I reckon GI will just slip straight back into that back line somewhere. You keep Papenhuyzen at fullback. I reckon just play him at centre. I'd have him and Olam as my centres. Like, I love Remus Smith is a gun, but...
I think you'd move him to the wing.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I'd put Remus Smith on the wing for sure. Then they have plenty of depth. And yeah, I just think, GI at Melbourne, he'd slip right in there. Probably Storm would need him at centre more than the Rabbitohs. Or actually, I reckon it's pretty even. I think it's pretty even. I think
the Rabbitohs need him more. I mean, if you're talking left centre, they've got Justin Olam there.
Yeah, I'm thinking just
centre in general.
Centre in general. It's I mean, it doesn't matter. He'd be so good for him. And, you know, no one forgets that Inglis paid for Melbourne, but if you go back and look at his highlights, you sometimes forget some of the shit he did at centre there. He was fucking unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy when you do go back and watch those tapes. You remember how young and skinny he was in the early years and then just how he developed so quickly to be the player he was in. Well, what year did he arrive at you guys? 2011?
11, yeah, because the salary cap was 10.
10.
Yeah, so
2009 was the year. No, it's 2007 was the year where he won at 5'8", didn't he? Clive Churchill?
Yeah, because Slater won in 09.
Slater won it in 09.
Yeah.
Yeah. But 09, I think, was that season where he came back, and that was the year where he palmed Jamie Soward in round one. And he just came back bigger and stronger than what we'd seen before. GI, great shout, mate. Now, as Matty said, you've obviously got the big three that you can choose from. You can go down that rabbit hole and choose any of those three and your team improves straight away. Cameron Smith would be the obvious one there. Depending how Pappy returns from his injury, Billy Slater becomes very appealing. But I think that with the spine they've got right now, they will be okay. Obviously, with Cam Munster as well, that takes out, you know, your Scott Hills, your GIs at 5'8", these sort of guys. I looked through the team and I tried to fill a hole, Matty. And we actually spoke about this the other day. We went through the Melbourne Storm's best 17. The back row is a little bit of a worry. Who's going to fill in there? And I looked, obviously they're losing Felice Kafusi and Kenny Bromwich. So I thought, you know what, I'd love to bring back an old head, an old back rower for the Melbourne Storm who just understands that position, understands the system, how they defend, etc. I had three names written down that I seriously considered. Actually two of them are former South Sydney boys. Mick Crocker was one I looked at to bring him into the back row. David Kidwell's another one that I looked at, who played with the Melbourne Storm for a long time. The other one, mate, is Ryan Hoffman, who I thought all three guys. There's probably better guys I could bring back, and I am going to bring back a better guy than those three. But they're three guys that I seriously considered just to fill a hole on one of those edges, just to take one problem away. But the guy that I've gone for is Glenn Lazarus.
Oh, true.
My pick in the front row. We just had a special visitor pop in too. Come over. Welcome to my studio, mate. Come in. I'd probably go for Glenn Lazarus. I'll ask Kempy now. If you had to pick a player from the Melbourne Storm to bring back for next season, who would you go for?
Hold on, just
jump on here.
A Melbourne Storm player?
Yeah. If you had it from their past, bring back one for next season.
Next season.
So you're going with a Smithy, a Slater. What are you looking at?
Oh, Cam Smith.
Yeah, okay.
Anyone outside of Cam Smith? Glenn Lazarus.
Yeah, okay, sweet.
In the middle.
My path. Yeah.
Need the forwards. Need a big dog in the middle.
You need a big dog. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, Matty, I'm going with Lazarus. The brains trust up here.
Yeah, nice.
We're both going down that avenue. Obviously, losing Jesse Bromwich, I think it's going to leave a massive hole, leadership-wise, just in your front row in general. So, Lazarus, he would be my pick in the front row there. Thoughts, Matty?
I mean,
Boss is here, so watch yourself.
Fucking one of the best to ever do it, Lazarus. So, Yeah, it's a good one. I just couldn't go past GI. I thought of him and I didn't even go anywhere else. But I like those other back rows you said as well. Yeah.
Whereas Lazo,
You know what you're getting every time.
100%.
Yeah.
you go on GI every day of the fucking week.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
All right,
So,
see you,
yeah.
brother. When I'm having a look through these 4 teams, Matty, I wish we had a mic on Kempy then. That would have been great. Some of his best trash talk towards Matty. Like thinks he owns a fucking place. When I have a look through those 4 teams, Matty, I think Lazarus, I could have brought him back for the Raiders and the Storm.
Yeah.
I could have brought GI back for the Storm and for South Sydney, and I brought Latrell back for the Roosters, who also played for South Sydney. So I could have covered
A bit of
all of
crossover.
these teams with 3 guys.
Yeah, right. Fuck.
Wild.
It's crazy how, so good.
Guys, that will do us for 2022 as far as our bringing back champion players. Sorry for that little interruption there. Hopefully that comes across on audio and video and you enjoyed yourselves there. We will have a giveaway on Christmas Day on YouTube, Rugby League Guru YouTube. So if you're still here at this point, stay tuned for that. That'll be dropping at some point on Christmas Day. I'll have some more details coming. Will be a little giveaway there where you guys answer a question, and the answer with the most likes will win a big prize on Christmas Day. So stay tuned for that, guys. The 25th, obviously, Christmas Day. Probably didn't need that reminder. Matty, thank you for everything in 2022, mate. This off-season, we spoke about it at the start, so no need to repeat ourselves, but it has been a fucking all-time time for me.
Yeah, this has been fun. This has been great, and I'm keen to do it in the new year and continue on.
So when we return in the new year, guys, our first episode will be bringing back a champion player from the Panthers, the Eels, the Sharks, and the Cowboys for season 2023. So plenty to get stuck into there. As Matty said off the top, if you have any topics you want us to cover, send us a message. Find Matty the Waterboy, Rugby League Guru. Leave it on the YouTube comments, wherever it may be. Let us know what you want us to get stuck into for 2023 and the off-season. A few more weeks until the season starts. So plenty more content to dive into. Stay tuned for that giveaway on Christmas Day on YouTube. One not to be missed. Like, comment, subscribe. Thank you guys for the year, and we'll see you soon.